everyone, welcome back to my channel. We are out of our reading slump, guys. March cured me. More specifically, one book cured me that I am going to talk about that I am positively obsessed with. And reading is back for me. Life has color again. The world makes sense. Not really. You get the sentiment. You get what I'm saying. We're excited about reading again. And it's fabulous. It's fabulous. It's been like 5-6 months, guys. So I have my reading journal. I have my wine sitting here in the corner. So let's get started. I read 8 books this month. I read 8, which is huge. I really only had one disappointment this month, which is also huge. Let's start on a kind of positive note. I want to talk about Wuthering Heights. I'm not original. I'm not original. I read this and really I finished it like mostly near the end of February. Like everyone else, like so many people that I follow on Goodreads, the movie came out. We had to read the book either before we saw the movie, after we saw the movie. I was one of those people that saw the movie first. And I knew the discourse about it online. I had seen it a lot. Like a lot of people were very, very upset and bothered by the adaptation. I saw the movie first and was like, this is fantastic. I loved it. I loved it. And then I read the book and finished the book and said, oh, this is why people are pissed. This is why people are angry, because they took all of the meat out of the story and then turned it into sex scenes set to music, which I mean, I'm not complaining about, but on some level it's like, what are we doing here? This, however, is fantastic. I have such a love-hate relationship with this book. Really, it's the characters, which is the point. The point is that these are awful, horrible, insufferable people that we are dealing with. And by the end, I was so sick of them. I was sick of them and their shit, and I just honestly wanted it to be over. But the first like 3/4, you can see where I stopped annotating and I got uninterested. The first 3/4 of it contain some of the most beautiful sentences that I have ever read. Like truly, like some of the most, like I would be reading it and I would be like, how did your brain come up with this? How did your brain do this and make this happen? And when you think logistically about the metaphors and all that it's trying to accomplish and did accomplish, it is so impressive. This is not a love story. I saw this TikTok and I wish that I could find it, but it's lost somewhere in the shuffle, where she was like, this is not a love story. Heathcliff is love without mercy, passion without forgiveness, like all of these things. Like he is the most drastic version of passion and like possessiveness that you can be. And then Kathy is just horrible. Like Kathy is such a brat, and they're definitely related, by the way, but we're not going to talk about that. I think they're brother and sister for sure. I think they're brother and sister. But anyway, we're going to move on from Wuthering Heights. I really enjoyed it. This was a classic that I always really, really wanted to read. I'm so glad that I did. And I think that I'm gonna watch the other adaptations though to see what a faithful adaptation actually looks like. Let's stay on the messy end of things. Let's continue with the affair narrative. I really enjoy books about affairs. I always think they're such an intriguing plot point. So this is The 10-Year Affair by Erin Summers, and I had such a great time with this book. Basically, what we have is we have 2 young parents named Cora and Sam. Cora and Sam are not married, but they meet at this like mommy and me like baby class, but obviously it's not, it's open to all parents. And they meet and they have this instant attraction and want to be around each other, but they're both in marriages that seemingly are not unhappy at the time of the start of this book. We follow the next 10 years of these two people's lives and these couples' lives. Cora basically starts maladaptive daydreaming about what it would be like to have and pursue this affair with Sam. And this book was so fascinating to me. This is an affair done right to me. Like, not that it happened, but the conversation around it, and as real life is happening to Cora and her husband and her children, and all of these things are happening to them, real life happens to them in the affair. And then there reaches a point where they start going like this, and Cora does get what she thought she wanted, but then maybe she actually wants this. And it's really just showing the narrative of imagining the thing is so different from having the thing. The characters felt so real to me, like even the side characters. I feel like there's this one mom that they call the broccoli mom, and she's basically just like this granola mom that tells everyone that they're doing everything wrong and she's doing everything right and you just don't understand. I'm convinced that she's walking around Hudson. Like, I'm convinced. And I really think that it just did such a great job portraying the reality of life and the reality of situations that you put yourself in, and then what do you do about it? Because now you're in it and now you've committed to the bit. How do you answer for what you've done? Now let's talk about the two nonfiction books that I read this month. First one being Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor E. Frankl. I have always heard that this is one of the best nonfiction books out there, and I kind of was feeling like I needed something different in my literary scope. I wanted to step outside my comfort zone, and so I picked this up. And obviously I annotated it a lot, but I don't know that this is sticking with me the way that I anticipated it to, and I don't know how I feel about some of the stuff written in this book. Essentially, it's Victor's experience as a Jewish man being in a concentration camp and how he survived and what happened to him. And he was a psychologist before he went in, and kind of what he saw, what he witnessed, how he felt. And essentially, the moral of it is the title, is that you're searching for meaning. And essentially he was saying that him having meaning in his life made it easier for him to survive, essentially. And when you have something worth living for, it makes you try harder to live. And the people that he saw give up would die a lot quicker, even if they were fine. At the time of it, like at the time of a certain thing where they decided to give up, were okay. I mean, as okay as you can be in that situation. And then they would decide, you know what, all hope is lost. We're never getting out of here. I'm done. Like, I'm over it. We're cutting it. They would deteriorate a lot faster. And here's where I have a hard time with this. And I'm not trying to have like a huge philosophical conversation here, because I do believe that mindset is everything. I 1000% believe that mindset is everything. But sometimes I would be reading the book and I'd be like, let this man be sad. I would be like, let him be sad. He's in a concentration camp. Like, let him be sad. I don't understand what's wrong with that. But he wasn't necessarily saying that you can't be sad, because there were moments where he felt like hopeless and despair. Like, he wasn't saying that. But then also he was kind of saying that. Like, I don't know. I don't know. The next one I listened to on audiobook and had the most amazing time with it. Like, I truly did not expect to like this book as much as I did. That is Strangers by Belle Burden. And she is telling the story about how her marriage fell apart. This is a memoir. And she is a level of rich elite that I will obviously never be. Her mom and her grandmother were socialites. They were very, very well known in New York society, had a lot of money, like a lot of money. She grew up with a lot of wealth and privilege, which she takes ownership for. Like, she does talk about it casually just because it is her life, but she does not try to say like, is this not your normal? Like, I'm up here and you're down here. Like, is this not your normal? She doesn't do that. But essentially, her and her husband, again, talking about an affair, her and her husband are quarantining with two of their children on their house on Martha's Vineyard, darling. They are making dinner and Belle gets a text message from this random man saying, your husband is having an affair with my wife. And up until this point, and here's what I think is so fascinating about this book. Up until this point, Belle thinks her marriage is fantastic. She thinks there isn't anything wrong. They have never had a discussion about him being unhappy, about her being unhappy. She isn't unhappy. She was so completely thrown by this because she was just like, but our life is perfect. I don't understand. I don't get it. And when she confronts him, instead of him having the, I'm so sorry, like, please don't leave me, like, it doesn't mean anything, like, instead of giving that whole spiel, he's like, yeah, I did do that to you. And I'm actually going to continue doing that to you. And I don't want custody of our children. I don't want either of our houses. I don't want to ever have the children spend the night with me ever again. I don't want anything to do with any of this life that I've built with you. And I'm going to continue seeing this woman and have a nice life. See ya. And then he packs a bag and he goes. And she said that it was almost like a psychotic break is how it felt, because that was so out of character for him. I don't want to give too much away, but there were parts where she's unveiling her marriage and she's talking about it. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh girl, that would not fly with me. That would not be happening. But I want you to imagine for one moment that your husband, who has abruptly left you and your teenage daughters and not bothered to say anything to them about you and basically said, hey, like, screw you, I don't want anything to do with you. I want you to imagine for a second that he comes over to your house to tell your children that you are getting divorced and that he doesn't want anything to do with them. I want you to imagine all of the things that he's done, and then he sits there and he looks at you and says, will you make me a turkey sandwich? I want you to think about what you would do in that moment, because it wouldn't have been pretty for me. We have 3 more books to talk about, and let's talk about the book that gave me my reading life back. The author that I am writing a letter to. I am writing her a letter to thank her for her, like, how can I? I can't thank her enough. I'm going to try. That is Miss Tayari Jones and Ken. Listen, okay. I don't know if I've already spoken about it on this channel. I actually went to the author event that Tayari had at the Rialto, and it was fantastic. I have already been an admirer of her work, but she is so intelligent and funny and witty, like, just so all of these amazing qualities about a human being and an artist that you want them to have, she has. And there were so many sentences, I wish I would have annotated this. There were so many times where my jaw would actually drop at how beautiful and captivating this writing and this story was. This is the book of 2 young girls who are cradle friends. That's what they call each other. It's very tender. It's very sweet. They essentially have been best friends since they were newborn babies. One of them is named Vernice and one of them is named Annie. Then they both are motherless. They both are motherless in the traditional sense at the start of their life and throughout this book. One of them left by choice. One of them was brutally unalived by her husband. Vernice's mother was the one that was unalived, and Annie's mother up and left her when she was an infant. She handed the baby to her mother and said, "Mom, I can't do this." And she left, and no one has heard or seen of her since. And it's all about how they grow up. It follows them from the day that they're born until they're young women. And the story just goes from there and follows their lives and how they are two completely different people. But they will always have this loyalty, this undying loyalty and love for one another. And it's really about what makes a mom a mom. Like, is a mom just because she birthed you, or is a mom because she has cared for you and nurtured you and done these things for you and stepped up? And their search for motherhood, whether within themselves, from their mother, and it's really so touching and it's really so affecting. And I will think about this book for such a long time, and I don't think it will ever leave me. And the ending, I picked up what it was putting down based off of one tiny thing that she said at the event, and I think it was great. I think it was fantastic. I don't have one complaint, and I loved the emotion that it brought out in me, and I just loved how I was just enraptured by it and by these characters. That is Kin. Please read it. Please try it. Please try to see if it's for you. I really, really do not think that anyone will be disappointed. I think that there is something for every reader in here, no matter what stage you're at with your reading life. Let's go into the next book that takes place in Georgia that I read. This is Ring Shout. And this is one that I have always had my eye on. And my friend Ray let me borrow her copy, and this book cover does look kind of crazy, but just give me a second, let me explain it, okay? We are in Macon, Georgia in 1915. Obviously, really horrific, horrendous things are happening on this side of town, okay? It's not a great time. And essentially what we have here is a group of women who have the sight. And this is magical realism, by the way. And when you have the sight, you can essentially see into the other realms of this world. You can see what is actually going on behind the scenes. And so our main character can see that not all of the members, but the majority of the members of the KKK are not humans. They are in fact demons. And the rest of the world cannot see this, but she can, and her group can. They all have the sight, and so it is their mission to get rid of these demons, get them out of here. And she has a magical sword that is given to her by this trio of spirits that are so enchanting to me. Hi guys, sorry for the abrupt change in quality. My camera battery died and I did not want to lose my train of thought. She can see, basically they're in charge of ridding the world of these demons. They're not really the world, like you can only do so much, so their area. And my first thought, I was telling someone about this book, and their first question and thought to me was, okay, well does that give the real life, like the real life instances of this, like does that give them an out? Like, is that what they're saying, is that like it gives them an out because maybe they weren't acting of their own volition? And I was like, I hear what you're saying, but no. The head guy in charge of corrupting the nation and later the world is essentially, he has a line where he says that the white people were easy for them to attach to because of the hatred that they already had in their heart. So it definitely does not try to excuse anything. It definitely does not try to underplay the realities of what happened. Like, this book is brutal. It is small, it's short, but like a lot happens and it's brutal. I heard that this is like if Sinners was a book, and I think the reason why they're thinking that is because there's supernatural elements and there is like a juke joint scene. It did kind of have that Southern Gothic feel to it, and there were scenes that took place on Stone Mountain that I thought were really fascinating, and I did not expect this book to make me cry. And I cried probably 2 or 3 times reading this book. I think that it is, if the magical realism element of it doesn't scare you, or if you're really into that, I think that this would be a fantastic book for you to try. Okay, so now the last one is, and this is my disappointing book. This is the book that I was disappointed in, and that is obviously Mona's Eyes. I have heard a lot about this book. And something that I do really appreciate about this is that when you purchase the hardcover, all of the paintings that they talk about in this book are on the jacket. And so you can follow along while you're reading and see what they're talking about, which I think was very helpful because I definitely would have Googled it. If you do not care about art history, genuinely, I'm being serious. If you do not give a flying about art history, don't waste your time. Do not waste your time on this. The man who wrote this book is an art historian. And when I read the back jacket and I found that out, I said, it's making sense to me here. It's making sense. And I came for the sappy grandpa moments because essentially what this book is about is you have a young girl, she's 10, her name is Mona. So all the people, when I worked at the bookstore, I would see people walk past this book and they would be like, it's Mona's Eyes, and that's the girl with the pearl earring. Her name's Mona. Guys, relax. And she's losing her eyesight. And she is recommended by her doctor to go to a psychologist once a week. And her grandpa is thinking to himself, like, what's that psychologist gonna do? Like, he's like a typical elderly man who's like, mental health? Affecting the body? Not in this house. I'm making a joke of it. It's actually very sweet. But he essentially is like, he is thinking to himself, there is so much beauty in the world, and art is so beautiful, and life is so beautiful. And if she's really going blind, like, she is not going to see it. I need to get her to see all of the beauty and learn everything that she can before it happens. And so against the parents' knowledge, him and Mona have a secret meeting once a week where instead of him taking her to her therapy appointment, he takes her to the museum. And it's not just the museum. They live in Paris. Okay, so we're going to the Louvre. We're going to like all of these other museums in Paris. And essentially I came for the sappy grandpa moments because I was missing my grandma. I mean, aren't we all? Moment of silence for all of our grandparents. And I was really missing her. I was thinking about her a lot. And I was like, I want to read a book about a grandparent. And I had this one on my shelf. And I came for those moments, and then I stayed for the art history lessons, and neither of them really played out in a way that I responded to super well. I had to switch to audiobook for this one about a quarter of the way through, and if I hadn't have switched to audiobook, I probably would have DNF'd it. I just was not responding well to what this book was putting down. I see why a lot of people like it. I see why a lot of people are enjoying it. And it just wasn't for me. Am I gonna try it again in a few years? Maybe. I don't know. And I'm gonna keep it because it's a first edition signed that will accrue in value. Yes, I will. But yeah, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about, actually I don't have mixed feelings about it. I know exactly how I feel about it. But yeah, so I don't know, it just wasn't for me. The art history lessons of it literally felt like I was in a seminar, which on some parts wasn't horrible when I was interested in what the painting was. I don't know. And also the ending, I did not like the ending. I did not like where it, and I can't say anything more than that because it will spoil it for you if you're at all interested in this. So yeah, those are the 8 books that I read in March, and it's all uphill from here, baby. We're so back. And leave a comment saying what your favorite book was that you read, and I will talk to you later.